Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murdered three. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
Back in 1776, someone said, "Give me coffee or give me death." And if that's how you feel, you should be at the Organic Man Coffee Tribe. They make coffee the right way, one delicious cup at a time. 4501 McPherson, Suite Number 9. Coffee, the stuff dreams are made of. And welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. Tonight, I have a very special guest who it's taken 2 years to finally track her down. I met her husband 2 years ago in Huntsville, Texas, and we got to talking about various things, and somehow a particular subject had come up. And he told me that I was talking to the wrong person and I should talk to his wife. And then I walked away and forgot his last name, so I couldn't find him. And it's taken me up until today, well, this week, before I realized that the man I was talking to, who he was, I managed to get a hold of him, and now I have the right person on the show. Some of y'all out there might never have heard of Michelle Miller, unless you hang out in the same groups I do. However, you probably have heard of her relative, John Bell, and his nemesis, the Bell Witch. Welcome to Strange Things.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I was very surprised when your husband mentioned that you were related. How are you related to the man that the witch tormented for so many years?
Okay, he is my fifth great-grandfather. Elizabeth Betsy Bell is my fourth great-grandmother.
Oh, so you're actually related to the other person that was being persecuted by the evil spirit.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Have you ever lived in Roberts County, Tennessee, or have you ever been to the property?
I have been to the property. I've never lived there, but we did go up and visit. We went to the home site is no longer there, but we saw the well. We walked around. We visited John and Lucy's grave. It's kind of in the woods there. But yeah, I love Roberts. I love Adams, Tennessee, and if you get the chance to go, it is so highly recommended. They love everything Bell Witch.
And can you tell the audience about the incident, about the Bell Witch?
Okay, I'll do my best. From what I know, about 1817, give or take, John Bell was out hunting, and he had seen something odd. When he shot at it, it vanished. And right about the same time, Betsy, my fourth great-grandmother, was out and about, and she had seen an old lady. And when Betsy turned to get a better look at her, she vanished. And it was that very night that the scratching started. They said it sounded like rats gnawing at the bedpost, and her brothers would come in and look and see where these noises were coming from because it filled the entire house. And they couldn't find anything, but it kept them up for hours and hours, and it continued for days and days, and finally, the witch got a voice, and she started talking and shrieking, and, well, actually, she started shrieking first, and then she started talking, and she tormented John. I'm not understand. I mean, I have my own theories as to why, but I'm as deeply confused, I think, about as everybody as to why she attacked Betsy like she did. I'm just blown away. I mean, I've read accounts by Richard Bell, he was one of the sons, and he was the older brother, and he witnessed the whole thing, and he wrote a book called Our Family Troubles, and he details quite well all the incidences that happened. But I don't know why she would torment Betsy like she did, slapping and biting and pulling her hair, and she was just beaten and just abused badly by this thing. And she didn't like John either. I mean, she really hated John, and John was the first person she attacked as far as verbally. She just loathed the man for some reason, and I have my theories on that too. But it wasn't until after John's death, which, according to family history, the witch caused. She stayed around for a little bit longer, and then she told Lucy that she was going, but she would be back, and she went.
How did the witch come to be called Kate?
My theory is now I don't know if a lot of people know this. Kate Batts is actually Lucy Williams, I think she's her aunt. So Kate Batts was married to Benjamin Batts, and Benjamin and John had I'm not going to lie, a slave dealings. They both owned slaves. And it went sour. I don't know the logistics of it, but it didn't go in John's favor, and Benjamin accused him of stealing and cheating him. So Kate was how would you say? I don't know if she was influential person there in the town of Adams, but people noticed her when she came into town. People noticed her because she always kind of came with an entourage, riding horses that was too small for her. I mean, sometimes she didn't ride at all. She just kind of walked the horse. I mean, she was just a weird woman, but she was related to Lucy, and her and John got into an argument, and it's stated that Kate conjured up this witch to just torment John, and that is largely my opinion. But that's how she came to be known. As the witch herself said that she was Kate Batts's witch.
Oh. Did she ever actually appear to anyone, or was it always just a voice? From what I know, is she was just a voice, and then I can't really recall. I know a lot of people would come and stay at the Bell home because they wanted to experience the witch, because she wasn't, I can't even say she wasn't all bad, but there were times that she was very intellectual. I know I'm probably saying that wrong too, but she knew what she was talking about. Where she got that knowledge, I don't know, but people would come to hear and things, but there were times that Kate, the witch, would appear at other people's, and they could hear her talking too. So a lot of it was just voice. But one thing that was interesting, she loved Lucy. She loved Lucy to death. She always took care of Lucy. But when the children grew up and married the older boys, she would worry about them. And one of the boys had taken like a raft down to New Orleans to sell cotton and stuff. And she would always say, well, I wonder if Joel's back or if Richard's back. And the witch would always go and check on the boys and come back and tell her, yes, he's at home reading a newspaper, or, not quite yet, just those kinds of things. So That's interesting. I'd not heard that before. She didn't just haunt the property owned by John Bell. She visited the church as well. Were there other locations that she might have shown up?
Well, the haunting of I can't even call it a haunting. The funny thing about the church, I like to go to there. She went to two churches simultaneously, and when the reverends would come and, talk to John, she would tell the preachers their sermons all at the same time. And, I mean, people were just amazed by it. They really were. But I don't personally know that she haunted any place else. I mean, I'm sure she did. I just couldn't. I don't know without having to ask some family historians.
The book I read was the book by Pat Fitzhugh, and I think I read it.
Pat's good.
I think I read it about 2000, the year 2000. So a lot of what I know about the Bell Witch, I'm having to remember, or I had to go back and thumb through the book real quick. Was John the only one who died because of the witch?
Yes. I do believe that John was the only one. She poisoned him. She said from the get-go, when she got her voice, that he was going to die at her hand. She didn't put it that way, but that's essentially what she said. That's what she meant, and ultimately that's what she did. She poisoned him.
Yes, that was... People say ghosts never hurt anyone, but I have a few instances where that's not necessarily true. Now, you alluded to this earlier. Why do you think she targeted Betsy of all people?
My only thoughts is I don't feel like Betsy was a spoiled child, even though some say that she was. I mean, maybe she was. Like I said, I think the reason why she tormented Betsy is because she was beautiful and she was popular. And, I mean, that's just maybe Betsy was flirty, and maybe she didn't like that, because the witch also stated that, she knew about God. She believed totally in God, even though she was a horrible thing. She told John Jr. that she totally believed in God and Christianity.
Any ideas as
so that's just,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, that's just my opinion as to why she just abused Betsy so bad. I really think because Betsy was pretty and fair-skinned, and I do believe that.
The family was, 7 children in all? And yet Betsy was the only one targeted, which...
Yeah, well, no. I think the witch also once spanked, was it Dewey? She spanked one of the boys one time, if memory serves. I know one of the other children got punished one time. I don't remember. I think it was Dewey. I think he said or did something, and the witch punished him.
But that's nothing like what Elizabeth was going through.
That's true. She just spanked the boy. She didn't beat him or pull his hair, but yeah.
Tormenting him.
Badly, yeah.
Any idea why Kate didn't want Betsy to marry Joshua Gardner?
I don't know. I hate to say that. From the things that I've been told and have read, that he was a nice enough gentleman. He wanted to provide for Betsy. He loved her since they were little. And I don't know why the witch just did not like him. I really, really don't, because everything I've been told about him, he was a pleasant enough man, or, young man, and then grew up to be a pleasant man. Of course, he married and had children of his own, and I don't know, but Betsy believed her, and she was highly upset, even crying, that it just wasn't fair. But she, from her own tormented life, the witch told her that if you marry him, it's going to be worse. And so she believed her, and then called off the engagement.
I was going to ask if Betsy ever found Mr. Right, but apparently he did, or you wouldn't be among us.
Yes, that's true. He did. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, was there any visitation by the witch during the wedding ceremony, or it was just never mentioned?
I do not think it was, because the witch left in 1820, I think it was, or 21. When did John die? Was it 21? Lord, I can't remember. I think it's either 20 or no. He left. When
It would have
did
been
John die?
1821. 1821.
Yes, 21. Yes, she married in 24.
Okay.
Her teacher.
Yeah, that was during the time period. It was the 7-year break while the witch was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Yep.
kind of unusual. And Kate became a kind of a tourist attraction. People would come from all over the country to witness her, well, to listen to her voice. Did she ever do anything to the people that were witnessing? I know that Andrew Jackson was very put out by her.
Yes, that's what I was told, is that he came to visit, and before he could even get to the property, his wagons all of a sudden just stopped rolling. As hard as they tried to make the horses go, they just couldn't. He had his men get off their horses and try to push it. So literally, they walked to the farm, and it was in the middle. His men stayed outside, and Andrew Jackson came in and tried to stay the night. And from what I understand, she tormented him so badly, just hollering and all of that, that he left with his whole army about 1 o'clock in the morning. Just packed him up and said, "Nope, we ain't doing this," and took off.
It would be interesting to know exactly what did happen, but you can't trust. There was a movie came out a while ago, and I'm sure that was all Hollywood. That weird creature that John Bell had seen, it had the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit. Did it ever return?
No, that did not return. Let me think. I think they said that a black dog came, but the weird creature never showed up again. But I was told that a black dog showed up. And that was all within the first few days. And then after that, the witch started making the noises in the wall and then started talking.
When was the cave discovered?
The cave, I believe the cave was actually discovered in 1817. It might have already been known to the Bell family, but it was right about the time that the haunting started that Betsy, from what I understand, okay, they were going towards the cave when they saw the old lady, and the old lady disappeared. And noises have been heard from inside the cave at that time. That's truthfully about as much as I know about the cave. I've been to Adams several occasions, but I've never been able to get to the cave because every time I've wanted to go, it's been closed.
I hate that.
Yeah, me too, because we really, really wanted to go. It's not like I can go up and say, "Hey, Bell descendant, let us in." Other people own it now, so.
True. The witch said, after John Bell had died, that she was going to come back in 1828, which was 7 years later. Did she keep her promise?
Yes, she came back to visit one more time. She visited Lucy because Lucy was the only one at home. I don't even think she inquired about Betsy. Visited Lucy, and then she left again, and she was gone.
Did Lucy make a note of what was said? Did she write it down like in a diary, or how was it passed on?
I think it was literally just word of mouth. I have not seen anything or have heard anything. It's just what they've told me about the Bell Witch, my cousins and aunts and things. And we have one cousin who's really into the Bell Witch. And, it's just from what she's told me is that she came back to visit Lucy and stayed for a couple of days. I don't even think it was a week. The witch stayed this time, and then she basically said she had to go, and she went.
This time when
She
she
didn't.
left...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, this time when she left, she said she would be back in 107 years, which would have been 1935. Did she make that appearance?
Well, I will tell you this. This is something I don't think a lot of people know. And it was a cousin back. I don't think it was quite the 108 years. It was further down. I think it was in the 1950s or 60s. There was Charlie, I think it was. He was working at the factory there in Adams, and a huge black dog. Let me back up. They had, in the warehouse, they had both the doors, the big doors open for ventilation. Anyway, it is said that a big black dog walked into one of the doors, walked up to him, circled him a couple of times, and walked out the other door. Within an hour, he was dead.
Zoinks.
So, yeah.
So there may have been more than just one person killed by the witch, but not sure.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, it could have been a coincidence, but, yeah, he probably just, in my opinion, probably just died of fright. To see a big black dog, just knowing the family history. But,
Yes.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I just never thought of it like that. Yeah.
The original house is no longer there. Do you know what happened to it?
I think they just tore it down. I think after Lucy died, it just kind of went in disrepair, and I think the boys just had it torn down. I think Richard lived on the property, if memory serves. I know, which one of the boys? Was it Joel, the oldest? He had his own place not too far from John's place. So I think Richard was the one who took over. But, yeah, I'm sure that he just had it torn down.
Yeah, it's amazing how property like that will go to pieces in a very short period of time if you don't stay on top of it.
Oh, yes, yes.
I see on the website that they put up a log cabin in its place, but it doesn't really look like the original house at all.
No, it don't. And I've only seen pictures. Again, the times that I visited, things were closed. I mean, I don't know. I guess I picked just the worst times to visit Adams. But, yeah, I mean, we've drove by. We've seen the replica. I knew it was a replica. But, yes, you're absolutely right. It's nothing like what the original was,
Who owns?
at least in the stories.
Who owns the property today?
It's actually in a trust. The Bell family has a trust. And the property is all in that trust. The cemetery there in Adams is really big. The Bell family has quite a bit of it, of course. But the property where John and Lucy's farm is all in a trust, a Bell family trust.
Do they ever report seeing or hearing anything around there today?
You know, I've asked that questions, and they all tell me no, but I have to believe that there's something. I mean, you just don't have something this extraordinary happen in an area and there not be some kind of residual energy. I mean, John and how he died, you know, I mean, I just believe that his spirit has got to still be roaming there.
For those that aren't familiar, I believe what happened was John was taking some kind of a medication, and the bottle that he was supposed to be using was switched with something else, and it wound up being arsenic or strychnine or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was arsenic, because they gave it to the cat, and the cat died immediately.
So, and how that could have happened, it's suspicious.
It is suspicious.
Do y'all?
John actually got sick. I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
John actually got sick that very first year. The witch just made it so that his health just deteriorated, and within the four years or so, he couldn't even walk. You know, from his front door to the road, which where their house was. I mean, the road was literally right there at their door, because they were also a stagecoach cut through. So people would be there literally all the time. So, yeah, I had only recently found that out. that and being at the property, I mean, you can kind of still see a wagon road, if that makes sense. Of course, it's all overgrown, but you can still tell where a wagon road was.
Y'all have family reunions there?
We do. It actually happens in October around Halloween, of course. But it coincides with the play called Spirit. It's all about the Bell Witch in Adams, Tennessee. A lot of the descendants get together. They go and watch the show and just visit and all that kind of good stuff. Last reunion I went to was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. We actually met at a park, and people were telling stories and everything, and it was fabulous. It was really, really good. And then we went over to the cemetery, and because that's where John Lucy's buried. I don't know if you know this or not, but Betsy is actually not buried in Tennessee at all.
Oh.
She is buried in Yalobusha County, Mississippi.
How did that happen?
Well, when she got married, Richard, they moved down. Richard became a statesman. Well, Richard died not too long. I mean, well, I can't say that. I think he died within the first 15 years of their marriage. I'm sorry. Her oldest daughter had moved to Tennessee. She actually married her cousin. So they had moved to, not Tennessee, I'm sorry, Mississippi. And then after Richard died, Betsy just became indigent. We'll just put it like that. Anyway, she had to move in with her daughter. And when she did, she brought, of course, all the other kids. And that is where my own third great-grandparents met. I come from Betsy and Richard's daughter, Pamelia Adeline.
I can't trace my family back but a couple of generations, and that's as far back as we go. The property, for anyone wanting to swing by and hopefully visit, it's 430 Keysburg Road, Adams, Tennessee, which is way up in the northeast side from Nashville. Kind of the middle of nowhere, but it's worth the trip, from what I've heard.
The closest biggest town is actually Clarksville. If you go to Clarksville, Tennessee, you're not going to be all that far.
Clarksville is a good-sized town?
It's decent. I mean, it's not like Nashville or Memphis or anything like that. It's just like a little town, but it's bigger than Adams, which is really nothing.
Oh. Depends on how small Adams is as to how big something else is.
Adams is small. Adams is really small. They don't have a grocery store. They have it's like a convenience store, and they've got a library. City Hall is actually the Bell School. The Bells donated the land for the school. I wish I could remember when. I don't remember that date, but when you go to Adams and you see City Hall, you'll see Bell School, which is a really neat little school, which is also haunted.
Oh, wow.
But not by the Bell Witch, it's just it's haunted.
Mm-hmm. In preparation for the show.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I was
going to say there's also a museum there, and if anybody would like to know more about the Bell Witch, Tim Henson, he operates the museum, and there is so much documents and memorabilia that the Bell family owned. John and them. That's right there in that building. So if you go to Adams, it's really worth going in and taking a look.
In preparation for this show, we've been playing phone tag for several days because you're getting ready for something called Footstock. Could you fill everybody in on what that is?
Sure. Well, besides ghost hunting and being from a paranormal family, my husband and I also do Bigfooting. And what I mean by that is we go and we spend time in the woods, a couple of days or whatever, and we look for Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Well, Texas has two conferences. One is the original Texas conference up in Jefferson, and that's in October. My husband and I put on a conference in May, or usually it's April, but next year it'll be May. The Southeast Texas Bigfoot Conference will be in Huntsville. So in between, it's just for researchers. So we put on a little event for researchers to get together, just relax. We camp, we make a bonfire, we eat, we do have speakers. We have like 6 speakers, but it's mostly researchers just telling new techniques, or this has worked for me as opposed to this. This equipment is come out. Maybe this equipment will help us to find Bigfoot and try to prove the species. We have a couple of people who have become trackers, so they're going to talk about their experience. We have one gentleman who is the Sam Houston Trails Coalition, and he's going to come and talk about that. Others are going to talk about equipment like a spectrogram. But, yeah, that is what Footstock is. It's a 3-day event, and we just all get together. We just have fellowship, friendship, and it's really good for researchers just to relax and not have to do much of anything.
You said you're going to have trackers there. Is one of them named Shelley by chance?
It is.
Uh-huh.
Shelley coming to Montana. Yep.
She was on the show last week, I think.
Oh, was she? Oh, bless her heart. Yeah, Shelley's a good friend. We've been friends, I don't know, 4 years or so now. But yeah, she's going to come and tell us. She just became what do they call a second
certified? Oh, yeah, second level certified tracker. Exactly.
I know it was the second something, but she's moved up. But yeah, she can tell you if an inchworm has crossed your path, which way it was going. She's really studied this material, so she's going to talk about it and take folks for a hike to show them if they want to go. It's really just Footstock is, like I said, it's just the researchers getting together, but we have speakers in the morning, we have speakers at night. In between is your free time. You can fish, you can sleep, you can do whatever. On Saturday, we'll have a couple of speakers, and everybody will have some free time. And then Sunday, we just pack up and go home.
Y'all investigate Bigfoot. Have you had any sightings or any really good evidence that you've located? Actually, well, yes.
We love going to Jefferson, Texas, and there's a place out there called Karnak, and that is where Caddo Lake is. Caddo Lake is the only natural lake in the entire state of Texas. Everything else is man-made. A lot of people may not know that, but that's true. With that being said, there is a kayak launch out that way, and we like to go out there, and we have placed recorders, and we have gotten some great howls from there. Well, one night we were coming back, and my husband saw Bigfoot cross the road. Only reason why I did not see it is because I was looking in the tree line. And he goes, "Did you see that?" Well, of course I did not see that. I was looking in the tree line, but he got a good look at it. We've gotten, we primarily do research in the Sam Houston National Forest, and we gotten some cast prints out by a creek there, and they were really good. We sent them to Jeff Meldrum, and we sent them to Cliff Barrickman for confirmation. Jeff thought they were very, very interesting, and Cliff did too. So we, matter of fact, last year, another group of ladies, Sisters of the Moon, 2 of them were there, and Debbie Jones, we sent her down to what we call the parking lot, and as Debbie pulled in, there was a Bigfoot running across the parking lot. So she got to see it. And so, yeah, we've gotten some really good evidence.
I've suggested this to other researchers, and for some odd reason, I guess it doesn't excite them. Bigfoot researchers should all have a camera mounted on their vehicle, because there are so many instances where they see something crossing the road.
Uh-huh.
And I know when I had my UFO sighting, I stood there for maybe good 30 seconds staring at this thing. Then I thought, I've got a camera in my truck. And it's almost as if as soon as I thought that, it was gone.
Oh, wow.
And I have suggested that people should have a camera mounted on the dashboard, runs all the time, like maybe an hour loop. And I believe Lyle Blackburn has suggested something like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a completely crazy idea.
No, we've had many dash cams. Matter of fact, that's how we caught the one, with the one that my husband saw. You could, when I reviewed it back, I mean, you can see it crossing the road. We sent it. There's several people who will clean up your videos and make them stabilized, and we sent it to them, and they all agree. Yep, that's something.
Wow. Wouldn't happen to have been M.K. Davis, would it?
It would.
Yes. I met him in Huntsville 2 years ago and didn't know who he was because I'm kind of looking at him up the side of my eye, and next thing I know, I had him on the show as well. It wasn't until he started to speak that I realized who he was. It's like, oof. Well, the Southeast Texas Bigfoot Conference. Can you give the audience a heads up on that?
Sure. Like I said, we host the Southeast Texas Bigfoot. It's in Huntsville, Texas. Next year, it's going to be May 8th and 9th. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, but we have a great lineup. Some speakers folks have heard before, but next year we're going to have J.C. Williams. He's actually out of Georgia. We're having Travis Walton, speaking of UFOs. So Travis is going to come and talk about his experience, which I know is not Bigfoot, but it's paranormal, and, you know, it's we feel like he needs to be a part of it. Cliff Barrickman is coming, Finding Bigfoot, for those who don't know who Cliff is. We're going to have Lyle Blackburn, Shelley, of course, and Ken Gerhard. Ken here lately has been on America, Monsters and Mysteries of America, I think is the show that he's been doing. I've been trying to keep up, but my new job kind of keeps me. I don't watch TV as much as I used to. Let me put it that way. But yeah, that's going to be our lineup. It's going to be great. On Friday night next year, we're going to do a luau. It's our meet and greet. It's just to help people relax, the speakers relax, and just hang out and have a good time. And before the conference the next day, when you have to get in business mode. So it's going to be really good. All the fixings with the luau, including the roasted pig. So that's going to be really, really good. There will be food vendors. There will be merchandise vendors. Oh man, we are going to have quite a bit of merchandise vendors, from everything from plush Bigfoots to Bigfoot you can carry outside to Cincy stuff. So we got a little bit of everything for everybody.
I believe the Ken Gerhart was on Search for Monsters. Wasn't that the one?
I think so. Yes. That is the one. You can look him up. Yeah, that's his new things. He just doesn't do Bigfoot or the Chupacabra. He's looking at all cryptids.
Interesting man, if you ever get a chance to sit down and talk to him. And the dinner before the conference, that's the occasion when you actually get to sit down and talk to these folks.
Yes, exactly. That way everybody can come in and, you don't have to feel intimidated for going up and talking to one of the speakers. Now's the time, if you want to come up and visit, by all means, come up and, introduce yourself. If you have a story, people would love to hear your stories,
That's May 8th and 9th, the year 2020 in Huntsville, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Aside from looking for Bigfoot, have y'all ever seen any UFOs while you were out and about?
Okay, my friend Ann, who is also Sasquatch or Squatch Dogs. I'm sorry. We were at her house about 4 or 5 months ago. Anyways, it was just kind of weird because there was a light that went across the sky, which is no big deal. I mean, she's in a flight path. But the funny thing was, it went behind a cloud and it didn't come back out.
That's weird.
And we were both like, "Did you see that?" Yep. But furthermore than that, not so much UFO as paranormal. Russell and I used to be in ghost hunting. And it was the ghost hunting that got us into the Bigfooting. We were out at a cemetery in the Lance Rosier unit, and we had heard some branches breaking, and big branches. It wasn't small twigs. It was big branches breaking, and then it sounded like something was running towards us, so we just left. It wasn't a hog, because we've been out there where there's been plenty of hogs. Hogs did not make that noise. So, yeah, it whatever it was big. And I know it wasn't a deer. Deers don't make that kind of noise either. It's just, that's not a noise you forget.
Any other good ghost stories that you had while out looking?
Well, we actually used to live in a haunted house. We lived there for 15 years. Yeah. And, not so much while out. Well, no, I can't say that either. There have been times that we have been out in the woods and have just kind of seen a mist kind of go by. Could it have been just anything? Sure. I mean, it could have been a temperature change, but I mean, it's just been, it was kind of weird.
Yes.
And we have heard, matter of fact, back at the parking lot that I was telling you about, we had put out a recorder, and since it was just the two of us, we went back and we got in the vehicle and we just was listening to see if we could hear howls or coyotes or owls or just whatever, anything that the forest wanted to make. And we did not hear this at the time, but when we reviewed the audio, it sounded like there was a party going on. There was people laughing, just carrying on, and we were like, oh, wow. So, yeah, I'd say that's highly paranormal. There was nobody in the area except for he and I. There's only one way, there's only one way in and out of the area. In other words, what I'm saying is, for somebody to have made that much noise, they would have had to have passed us the way we were parked, and nobody did.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's always
some weird stuff out there.
It's always good to run into a Bigfoot researcher who is also into ghost hunting as well as UFOs. I get a kick out of these guys that they'll say that they're looking for Bigfoot, but they think that people who look for ghosts are weird. And it's like, you're the one running around out in the woods.
I know, right?
And then I've had people who look for UFOs who think Bigfoot hunters are all kind of strange. And it's like, jeez, come on, people.
Well, I think we've kind of gone the gauntlet on the paranormal things. As far as we haven't actively looked for UFOs, but have you ever heard of the Saratoga lights?
Yes.
The Bragg Road lights? Okay. Well, we were out there. We weren't necessarily looking for anything. We were just kind of wasting time. And we went out there, and we put. It was just kind of weird. If you've ever been out there, it's a really long 8-mile road, straight as an arrow, but it has some like pipe underneath the ground, so it kind of crosses the road, and it has easements like that. Well, this particular night, it was just the strangest thing. Towards the right, coming from Saratoga way, going up the 8 miles, off of 787, I think is what it is. But all of a sudden, there, and I hate that term, but because everybody uses it, but this is true. It was just the biggest, brightest light, and it stayed right in that position, and it wasn't close to us by no means, because we pulled over, we stopped, and we watched it. We thought it was an airplane that was flying really low, But
Wow.
it stayed that way for almost 40 minutes. And we decided to go on because nothing was happening. It wasn't coming any closer. It wasn't going any further. It stayed right there. And so can I say I've seen the Bragg Road light? Maybe, because that cannot be explained, because it wasn't car light. It wasn't ATV lights. Like, there wasn't anybody on the easement on four-wheelers or anything like that. It was just one big bright light that stayed at the same level, the same area. It did not move.
Well,
And we just kind of got tired of looking at it and drove on down after about 45 minutes. We're thinking, well, it's not going to do anything.
wasn't Bragg Road originally a set of railroad tracks?
It was. Mm-hmm. It's got some interesting history. The story with Bragg Road is there was a railroad worker who had lost his head, and he walks around with a lantern trying to find his head. And a lot of people believe it. They still believe it. And some people in the area think it's old Mossyback, which I don't know how. He didn't lose his head, I don't think. I mean, a Bigfoot walking around with no head, a whole carrying a lantern. Really? Come on.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what the people say. Matter of fact, there's even a sign from Texas who even states that this is Ghost Road. It's from the DOT there. Anybody can go out there and read it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they also put one up at the Aurora Cemetery for the crash of, what was it, 1895?
Yep, something about like that, where they buried the alien body, and then they had to dig him up and move him because somebody dug him up and they had to rebury him in an undisclosed location.
Something of that, and his tombstone disappeared. So yeah,
Yes,
Texas,
exactly.
Texas, we have a few unusual historical markers out there.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Any books you'd recommend young Bigfoot researchers or ghost hunters look into?
Well, just being with my particular family, if you can get a hold of Our Family Trouble, that is a really good one. David Weatherly wrote a book that will scare you to death, in my opinion. It creeps me out. It's called The Black-Eyed Children, which I pray I'd never run into those people. That just scares me to death. Lyle Blackburn has wrote a wonderful series of books, talks about Bigfoot. Mostly he does Boggy Creek. Everybody knows Falk, Arkansas, and Boggy Creek. That was the basis for the Boggy Creek Monster, or the Legend of Boggy Creek back in the 70s. Yeah, I guess really that's kind of it. I mean, Ken Gerhardt's written books. Nick Redfern has written books. All wonderful, wonderful books. Ashlyn Brown wrote a book.
Yes.
And her books are really good. She's got a series of 3, and they kind of just go one right after the other. The story just continues, so you got to start with 1 and go to 3. But Ashlyn Brown has written 3 great books.
The Secret of Blackjack Woods. That's the first one.
Exactly. Yes.
More targeted towards a younger audience, but still, I've read them, and they're worth reading. Kind of thing you could buy for your son, your daughter, teenagers. You wouldn't have to worry about them having to go to therapy later after reading it.
Let me think. There was a young man who wrote a book. He was a teenage ghost hunter, and he lived in Helena, Texas, him and his dad. And I'm thinking that's what his book was called, Story of a Teenage Ghost Hunter. So, I mean, if kids wanted to read about that, that would be, young people would want to read about that. That would be really good. Helena, Texas is scary as dickens. I mean, that place will scare you to death. That whole little town is haunted.
More so than Jefferson?
We've done investigation. Huh?
More so than Jefferson?
I would say, I would say they're equal.
Okay.
Jefferson is very haunted. I've gotten EMF. EVPs. Oh, yeah, I can't speak today. I've gotten EVPs from both places. I've actually had paranormal activity at Helena. I was asking the spirit to move a toy, and it did. It moved it.
Sykes.
And I've taken pictures outside of a window, and there was a woman dressed in Victorian clothing, clear as a bell. And there's no reflection because we do ghost hunting in pitch darkness. So there was no outside light source that could have affected what showed up in the picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add before I let you get back to your life?
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I hope everybody is able to read about the Bell Witch and have learned a little bit of history. And if you get the chance, please go by Adams, especially around Halloween. The spirit play is really worth watching. It's all about the Bell Witch, how she came to be, all about Betsy, all about John. It's really a good play, and it's put on by the folks there in Adams. So, these are amateur actors, but they do a really great job.
Thanks for being on the show, and for those that did not catch it, that was Michelle Miller, a direct descendant of John Bell, who was tormented to death by the Bell Witch.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man, they say murdered 3? Strange things that happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.